Hey Jared, how you doing?
Hey, what's up?
How's everything today?
You know, I get up earlier and earlier every day to try and catch up. So,
I feel you, man. I
so,
feel you.
yeah, some days it's 5 a.m. And then today was probably 7, got going and started strategizing on some stuff. And yeah, I'm just in like full bullish mode. So, and dry January is obviously our big, big ticket month.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to talking about all that. I'll,
Can you?
I'll yeah, yep.
Yeah. My name's Jared Langston. I'm the founder of Good Liar non-alcoholic beer, and then the parent company of that, which is Dry Department.
Perfect, Jared. When did Good Liar start?
So the actual idea around Good Liar started a while back, actually in 2019. But the previous company I was with, COVID hit us pretty hard, and so I kind of put that on the back burner, and then picked it back up in 2023 just as a seed idea. But I would like to say we really launched January of 2024, and then as a proof of concept, let's see what's out there. Let's just kind of get our feet wet, get our hands dirty. And then in January 2025, that's when it was really like, okay, this is viable, this is real, let's go.
And where are you guys located? What are you guys in any other states outside of Columbus at the moment?
We're in Ohio specifically right now with distribution, and we can ship e-commerce to, the majority of the United States. There's a couple of states that don't allow you to ship non-alcoholic beer. It's just an old school law, but full state Ohio distribution. So we're everywhere from Cleveland to Cincy to Dayton, Toledo, Columbus, but we really have a big foothold in Columbus, and we're moving through the rest of the state.
I used to I had some client work out there for a couple of years, so I worked with a few of those distributors out there and worked the markets in Columbus, Dayton, and Cincinnati. So
Yeah.
it's a whole nother world over there in the best way possible. Yeah.
hmm Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a sleeper state
Yep.
when you have three big cities all within a morning drive of each other. And so you can, from Columbus, which because it's centrally located, you can hit Cleveland in 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and then Cincinnati in hour, hour and a half. And so it makes it pretty easy to navigate those other cities, but they each have their own little pockets. And
Yeah.
it's very spread out.
Are you guys producing in house or are you guys co-packing?
So it's not necessarily co-packing, but we have a big brewing partner that is involved in the business as well. And so we don't necessarily co-pack, but we work with Deschutes Brewery.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
And so
I represented them years ago and brought them into Pennsylvania.
yeah, awesome. Yeah,
Yeah, I know those guys. I know
abs-
those guys.
absolutely stellar company. I love their quality control, their product, and then more importantly, they make absolutely stellar non-alcoholic beer. I mean, it's world-class product. And so that was something we were really, really bullish on, me specifically, that the liquid was good. Because I went through 4 or 5 different types of technologies to land on what we have now, was trying everything. And to me, it just didn't taste good. And I think part of that was I don't come from the beverage industry. And so I'm a brand creative guy, and I've spent 20 years in 10 years building brands for other people, and then spent 10 years building up a brand internally. And so I just didn't want to settle. And so a lot of that was trying everything that's out there. I lurk every brand that comes out, and I instantly will order it and try it because I just want to know what's in market and
Mhm.
what the standard is. And so the more you can know the nuances, I think it helps you make a better decision on growth for your company just based on the liquid. Because non-alcoholic specifically, since there's air quotes no functional benefit of it, there's psychological, there's taste, but you're not getting drunk, you're not getting high, you're not having adaptogens in it. And so the taste has to be on point. You cannot come out with a product that's a non-alcoholic version of something and not have it taste absolutely stellar. So I would say if there's one thing that I'm sensitive to the business about, it is the flavor profile. people can knock on the branding, they can knock on social media, they can, any other thing. The one thing that I always want to make sure that our customers know is that the product is fantastic. And so we put a lot of time and pride into that to always make sure that that liquid hits every single time, because a lot of people pour it in a glass, whatever. And so in the end, it's a consumable. And so it has to be very, very good.
And I'll actually raise that to two other levels. Is in 2019 when I started interviewing non-alcoholic beer companies, it was because after spending so long in the industry, I was trying to get sober. And spending so many years in the alcohol industry, I was like, it was a part of me. You know what I mean? Like it was a part of me when I was out. Everything was in my hands, all that stuff. And so, but that was the number one problem. And it wasn't me, like, as far as this, I was like, I just need the tool. I just need that tool to like give me something out when I'm out and at parties. Cause it was like, that was the problem in the social settings. But those flavor profiles were all horrible at that time. And it really makes me excited to hear somebody talk about it, how important it is, because I think that was the intent in the beginning, but also I think a lot of people were pushing things out just because there was a good little bit of buzz there for a little bit, pun intended, and then it kind of popped up a little bit. And now it's in a whole nother level. But at that beginning part, that was tough. And only having O'Doul's to try to quit drinking and stuff like that wasn't really working.
Yeah, that's like, those are a little rough for me personally, but I know some people still like to drink those just because of probably the nostalgia feeling of it, that's what they've always had. And that is one thing that we get a lot of people to switch over to Good Liar just because of the flavor. I mean, when we'll see people try it and their eyes open up and their ears perk up and they're like, oh my God, this is non-alcoholic. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
And there's still so much potential growth because there's still people that think non-alcoholic beer tastes bad. And I think Athletic did an amazing job of paving the yellow brick road for everybody to kind of open up the industry. And so I think that it's actually very welcoming to have more brands. I'm really, really competitive, but I do think having other good quality brands shows that it's a viable industry. And if you come out and there's really awful brands or people have a bad taste in their mouth, literally from a certain brand, they're going to get turned off by that particular type of product. And so I think having more quality brands is actually great. There's definitely some brands that have come out that are doing it the right way. And then you're going to have a bunch that are trying to catch the tail end of it. And I think that over the next couple years, 2 years, 18 months, you're going to see a lot of brands drop because they're either over indexed or they're trying to go too wide. And so our particular playbook, we have one SKU, and that's been the play for until we hit a certain velocity.
I gotta say that's the way to do this.
Yeah. Single SKU, single state, and just get as much velocity as possible. And right now we have the highest velocity in a 6-pack in grocery, and by a large margin. It's not even close to the velocity that we're moving. And I mean, we'll be in a third of the locations as, say, a brand right next to us in sales dollars, and we're beating them in sales. And so for us, we went too wide too quick early on because we just were like, oh, if we get this many accounts and each one of them orders X amount of cases, again, I didn't come from this industry, so everything's been a learning curve.
Don't stress about that, because we all try. Sometimes it does work. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you hit lightning in a bottle and it works.
Yeah.
So you have to try it sometimes.
Yeah, it definitely. Yeah, it could. It kind of bit us in the butt a little bit.
It's either way.
It's like, all right, do we need to be in the drive-through that's 45 minutes outside of the city that has 2 non-alcoholic beers that are on the bottom shelf collecting dust? Yeah, probably not. Or those bars that don't even put you on the menu because they just put a can up above their bar. So we were figuring out who our customer is. It's a little bit different than what it was who we thought it was early on. And so we've been pivoting that. And I think I keep a very open mind to data and what is working. And it's just keep trying things instead of saying, no, this is who we are and being very stubborn about it and not able to pivot. So we pivot very quickly. We're a small team, and we'll see some data come in and we're like, nope, let's change it. And so even early on, I was like, we're not going to do any tastings in store. We're going to be a digital first. We're going to own the whole digital landscape, if you will. I flipped that so quick because as soon as we start getting this liquid is so good that as soon as we start getting that to people's hands, it was a game changer. And so our table setup is super rad. It's not just a black tablecloth with a couple plants on it and it says, and like you put the can out. Like we have a whole thing because of the customer experience. And Giant Eagle has been a great partner for us so far. They love the product. And I mean, this 2 weeks ago, a single store ordered about 90 cases and gave us a display. And that was just because of the amount of product that we're moving in that particular location. And they love it. They love our energy. And so we're going to support them any way possible because it does work. And we have a really great brand story where we've taken no funding. It's been all bootstrapped from the beginning. And it's just let's hit this as hard as we can and not go after money just for money's sake. And it's just money versus hard work. And obviously when you can have both of those, you can have a really successful brand. But I do think a lot of people burn capital early on. And I learned that from the previous company that I was working with is we had 2 people on our team and we ended up building a very successful business. But those early days, it was, you're literally building things. It's not, hey, let me just hire this out. No, you're laying the hardwood floors, you're hanging TVs on the wall, you're painting things, you're going and driving and sitting in different meetings. And that's how you just learn things and kind of break through. I think the way I like to think about it is if you had 10 glass sliding doors in front of you and you had to get through every single one, I'm going to run through those as fast as I can and be cut up, bruised, scarred, blood dripping off my face, but I'm going to be through the door. And then by the time I get to the 8th or 9th door, I'm going to know how to open it versus standing in front of the first door for 6 months trying to figure out how to open it perfect. And so the very early stages of this brand, and even still now, there's very, very raw parts of the brand. And it was done intentionally because I just wanted to get it out, get it to market and see what's working, what's not working, change the packaging, change the can, change the voice. And no one knows who you are in those early stages. I mean, unless you go and raise a ton of money and you come at this thing with a bazooka or hit lightning out of a bottle, as you said, no one knows who you are. So right now is the time to fail quick, fail faster, fail more, because it'll help you navigate. The worst thing you can do is sit and not make a decision.
It's so encouraging and inspiring, honestly, to hear that. And I don't mean that, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I mean it literally, because majority, and I'm not broad stripping this. I've worked with hundreds of brands in the beer space, both in non-alcoholic and alcohol. And majority of the time, the problem is transcending from taproom sales to wholesale sales. And it's everything you just said that you analyze that a lot of times get forgotten. Because when you're working in the tap room, you have constantly people coming in that are coming for your product, and it messes up your psychology because you think everything's great and everything's wonderful. And then when things flop in retail, you blame the retailer as opposed to analyzing what it was that didn't work on the shelf, but not your strategy. And I really appreciate that because it's a hard transition when I work with brands to moving from tap room sales to wholesale sales and understanding things will constantly be changing and fluid, and you have to situationally manage and pivot quickly. Because I really, it's encouraging to hear what you just said, because there's a point when you start to get nervous about the industry, when people dig their heels in, like you said, and they're like, this is who we are. And it's like, what mountain do you really want to die on when everything's telling you the opposite sometimes?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And part of that probably is just because I've had a different perspective, is I'm not from the industry. And I understand that your version 1 is not going to be your version 20. And when you're early on, you think everybody's looking at things. And it's like social media, and people kind of get too precious. And I even do sometimes. I mean, I even call myself, I'm like, why am I being precious about this? Because if it fails, no one sees it. So what's the problem? So if it sucks and you post something and it gets 1,000 views, who cares? No, it's kind of a win-win. It lets you kind of play around, and and then you have something that's great and it pops off, then everybody sees it. So who doesn't matter.
No, that's a funny point about the way the algorithm works today. You're right. I didn't ever thought about it that way. Like if you do put out something that does, the algorithm's not going to push it out at you.
Not. You only see the good stuff, and that's what they want, because they want users to engage, and you have to put out quality content. And so the days of let me just take a picture of my sandwich and post it and it gets 200,000 views are over. I mean,
Yeah.
unless you're a celebrity or have a hardcore following that are going to engage no matter what you post, it's the users are starting to. There's so many other platforms. You have TikTok, there's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. There's so much competition now that you have to put out quality content, and they're going to reward you to stay on the platform longer. But yeah, I think with the brand just as a whole, it's don't be precious about it and be willing to change and adjust. Yes, have your North Star, right? You can't not have that North Star, because then you're going to get lost as you start to go. But I like to say I will always ask dumb questions in a way. I mean, they say there's no dumb questions, but there's absolutely dumb questions. But I don't mind asking elementary questions because I just want to know. It's just, I would rather just ask the question so I can understand, so I don't make a simple mistake that somebody else, in this industry, as I getting into this industry, the first 6 months, I swear, it was me just learning all the acronyms. I'm like, what does that mean? Getting into this, I didn't even know a case meant 24 cans. I'm like, no, a case is just a 6-pack. Like that's how far disconnected I was from this. I built bars and these big, huge bars and entertainment concepts for 10 years, but it's just like, now you're on the other side of the table. And it was just really interesting just trying to learn, like, what does that mean? And now it's like, now with ChatGPT, it makes it a little easier, because if you're in a meeting or something, you're like, what does this mean? And you just type it real quick and it'll just kick you out. Okay, I got it done. Bang.
I used to have a new supplier form. It was not form, it was a handbook. It was about 15 or 17 pages, depending upon what it was, which category it was. And it was all the glossary terms. And it was like, literally, it was like opening up a dictionary. And then it went through all the things of like, what's FOB, what's landed, what's LTL, what's this, what's small parcel, every single thing you could possibly imagine. And I was just about to be like, I think it was like right before COVID. I was like, I should release this thing as like a handbook, and I may still do it, to be honest with you, because I put a lot of work in. But AI is so good now. I'm like, do I go through the effort of doing that?
Yeah.
Like, our book's dead? I don't know. I hope not.
It's just different industries. Like if you go in the automotive industry and you would go step on the floor, you're not going to know.
No,
it doesn't.
It's a
don't. Yeah, it doesn't mean that you're not as intelligent. It's just a new world. And so, but it's how quick can you learn that information, and do you need to be repeated that information to absorb it? And so I try to be like a one and done, like, look, you tell me once, I got it. And our brewing partner really, really helped some of that learning curve down, of cutting those that time down. And so, yeah, it's been a wild ride so far. We're really proud of what we got so far with the fastest velocity 6-pack in Ohio right now. As we grow and as we add more locations, we're trying to keep that velocity up. So we're being very, very intentional to tell our brand story and create super fans. That's what we're trying to do. I'd rather have less people love this brand, but the people that do love it are just infatuated with it. And that's why the brand looks the way it does. That's why it sounds the way it does, because we are trying to hit a certain group of people, and we're not afraid to be a little bit abrasive in certain ways, just to kind of wake you up. Is coming into this industry, the one thing I did notice is it's very old school in a lot of ways. I mean, filling out distribution paperwork, it's on a PowerPoint file from 2004.
And I know like
So
your chain activation, your new
yeah.
product activation.
Yeah, and so I'm like, all right, let's give it the times here. But it just shows that, I mean, one, it's like, is it working? Why are we going to change it? Why do we need to put my time and money and investment in this? But at the same time, I just look at it as opportunity, that the industry is changing. Everybody's been knowing that. I saw the wave coming in 2019, and unfortunately, COVID just kind of put a little bit of a damper on that. But in 2023, kind of put all my ideas up on a board. I have every day I come up with a new concept, I swear, and I just write it down and put it on a notebook and put that away in the filing cabinet. But I was like, all right, if I'm going to take a swing at this guy, I think it's time to do it, because I knew that other brands were coming hot, and it took a few months to land on a product that I was super pumped about, because everything to me at that point just wasn't overly awesome. And I wanted a top tier product, because in the end, that's what's going to drive your business, is people liking it and coming back.
No, and also being like the human part of it. And I like everything you're saying as well, because there's a real care to everything you're doing, and your intentions are in a way to enhance the consumer experience, which at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. I I'll tell you a funny one is probably 15 years ago when I started getting into craft beer, I had a wholesale client in York, Pennsylvania, and we're getting they still had cassette tapes that were receiving the orders at night, and this is 2010, 2011, 2012, and we literally couldn't get them to email us the orders. We couldn't get them to fill out the Excel files. So I went around to every craft beer account that was going to buy from us, and in order to make it the most efficient way possible, because what happened was they would call late at night and the tape would run out. So like midway through the order, you'd miss half the order, and the customer service has to call back the next morning, and then all the touch points that would then because of that. So literally 2010 to 2013, I'm driving around to craft beer accounts, dropping off fax machines. And then a couple of years later, finally, they were open to emailing and stuff like that. You're correct. This industry is very antiquated, but at the same time, it has these beacons of progressiveness, like what you guys are doing with non-alcoholic beers and stuff like that. The issue sometimes though is, and this is always my critique, sometimes they're resistant to where sometimes you miss the opportunity because of the resistance. And I think that was a little bit with you guys in 2019. I think there was a lot of distributors that didn't see the trends and the trajectory that they had, and they didn't embrace it right before COVID. And nobody knew COVID was coming, so that's not a blame thing. But I'm just saying and the same as craft beer. When craft beer was really coming in 2008 to 2012, it was very hard to get some of those accounts to get on board. And then now they're some of the biggest accounts in craft beer now. So back then, we literally would be in conversations where we're like, we got this awesome new can, and they'd be like, well, canned beer, that's Pabst. Why would I buy a $40 case of canned beer? You know what I mean? And that was there. And then you got Cajun corks, and you got the 750s, and we were just throwing them at everything back then. But back to your story though, you were a branding guy and stuff like that. Walk me back to where you came up with the name, but also from a visceral standpoint, when was the light bulb moment when you came up with the name of the brand?
So in 2019, it was actually a completely different name. When I had the idea, I wanted it to be very tongue-in-cheek, very dry, sarcastic, and some of that just stems from me. I kind of have a dark sense of humor, very dry but sarcastic, but also kind of smart. And was originally going to call it Holy Water. And I had this idea for a 90s evangelical guy walking around and pouring beer on people and just kind of making it very, very over the top. Actually filed for the trademark for Holy Water Brewing and went down that whole path. But there's so much resistance on the trademarking of it. And COVID hit, and then just kind of put it on pause, and it was like, okay, I need to reinvent what the name is. And so ended up just putting, probably 100 plus names on paper, and then was riffing, and then some names just kind of snapped together. Yeah, it was like kind of riffing with some people, and I put two names right next to each other, really, like it said like liar liar and like good something, and then it was like, oh wait, these two names, they just kind of snapped together. But it wasn't like a light bulb moment. It was like, okay, that's a cool name, and then came up with more. did some internal focus groups, and everybody was like, that's the name, that's the name, that's the name. And then from the business side, because you come up with a great name, but then you research it and you're like, oh, someone else has it. Is it confusing? What about the trademark? And so that was a name. It was like, okay, cool, name's good, but it wasn't like, oh man, that's it, let's go all in. Because there were some other names, and I was going to go very aggressive with it, and ended up making the right decision and kind of reining it back. And so from there, then it was like I bought the URL. It wasn't cheap, but it wasn't overly expensive for just goodliar.com. And I was like, okay, another box checked. And then it was, okay, can we get the trademark for this? So I filed for the trademark and then got full registered for Just Good Liar. And I was like, all right, good. 3, name, trademark, URL, let's go. And so from there, then it was just off to the races. And I love the name just because it's, I like to say, like with the dark humor side, you have to have 50% of it, which is just the dumbest idea ever. And then 50% of it is like, that's also the most brilliant idea. Put those two things together. So the good and the liar. And even when you watch really good comedies, they're always so dumb, but at the same time, it's so brilliant. Like Anchorman, if you watch Anchorman, it's so over the top dumb, but it's also underlyingly like really smart. And so that's kind of how it approached the name. And just there's so many things with it. I could keep going, like the 2 vowels and good. When you have 2 vowels, they're more likely for people to be able to read it in other languages. And so it was like, okay, universally people know the word good. Universally most of the people know the word liar. And so it wasn't something where you're like, how do you pronounce that? It's easy. And so that's how deep we'll go when trying to think through a name. It's not like, oh, that name's good, let's go. I mean, I really, really chop these things down and analyze it. How will it look when it's typed out? When you stack good and liar, you have equal characters now. So there was just so much that went into it. But in the end, it's just a memorable name that people can remember, and it just sounds fun.
It is, and I think that what you did with the type font as well is something that is underutilized. Is just really just being straightforward. And I love your hat. Like the hat is,
Yeah,
like
it's
that's yeah.
yeah, I get compliments on this anywhere, anytime I go somewhere. At the airport, I was in a meeting yesterday and a guy was hanging some lights or something, and he looked over, he's like, that hat's epic.
Yeah.
Is there something with simplicity? And that is something that anything we do, it's going to be a little bit more straightforward. I don't think it's just creating it overly complex. Like, there's something about a fashion feel editorial that can translate into the beverage industry. And we're even starting to rework on the cans and update them. And we're even going to make it slightly more simple than even what the can is right now. And just because when you're in a bar, can you see the logo from across the bar? Like, there's so many things with the can where the logo sits and you're holding it in your hand. Can you still see the logo if you're in a bar across the way? So all those things were taken into consideration when we were designing the can. It wasn't trying to just, make it look fun. It was a lot of placement, the intention behind it. The can actually kind of has a 360 feel to it. And then even, so our 6-pack boxes, so earlier when we were talking about pivoting, so we came out with our first box and it was black and it was very rock and roll and had pictures of lifestyle photos all over it. And it was super cool, like holding the box when you held it and you were able to look at it 360 at like the sides and the top and kind of digest it. On shelf, it was confusing because you don't know what side the retail partner is going to show, the short end, the long end, the top. You have no idea. They might show both. And so that was a little bit of a miss for us because e-commerce or holding it in person, it was like the coolest rock and roll box ever. Clarity on the shelf, because we literally on the side of the box, it said this box contains good liar beer. And that was it, like right on the side. And we're like, oh, super fun. And it's like, people aren't going to read that much. They need 1 second, see it, the clarity. And so we took a completely 180 take to it. And it was like, how simple can we make this box? How over the top simple when you're coming through and you're just scanning. So it's literally an all white box, and it says Good Liar as big as possible on the top of the front facing side. And then the can is just all over it.
I have it up on the screen right now, which is why my eyes went away for a second. And I got to say, there's two things about it. Well, number one, I love the give a sip. And I'm going to connect with you on that because I had a t-shirt business years ago, and we would give it for every t-shirt we sold, we gave a t-shirt to a local shelter. And our phrase was, we give a shirt.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And the other piece is, you nailed it though. You have the rock and roll edge, but then you have the minimalism that you can stand out in a sea of color and brands on the shelf. And I always envision, the first thing in my mind was, it reminds me of like the rock and roll, like heavy metal guys that don't have tattoos.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually a great way to put it. I really like that, because when we started, it was like, okay, let's have hand tattoos. Let's go this tattoo route. And then as we start to evolve, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want this to be something that still feels a little edgy, but also feels like you could have it at dinner or have it at a nicer restaurant, and it doesn't feel like you have to drink it in a dive bar. So that's kind of where we're evolving the brand slightly. We're getting away from that cliche tattoos and hand tattoos, and this is tough now because this guy's got knuckle tattoos or whatever. And we want to make it feel a little sexier, but still have an edge to it, because we're learning who our customer is. And when we started this, we're like, oh, our customer is going to be 21 to 28. No, that's not who it ended up being. It ended up skewing like more 25 to 45 or even 50. And we've even had 70-year-olds come in and buy this. And it's their favorite NA beer, just because the flavor is so damn good that people just will come back. And a lot of people don't care what the box looks like. If it's a good product, it doesn't matter. Like when, and even like social media and stuff, I think it's a great tool. But how many times you go in the grocery store and you've never even heard of, like, you go and buy like a, taco shells, you're not like, let me check out their social media. You're like, no, these things are delicious. I know what the package looks like. It's easy for me to grab, and I'm on my way. And that's just a kind of a surface level, because we do want to create those super fans, and we are working on some amazing social content, but it's not about pushing the product. It's about creating a community and things that people can then relate to. And then subconsciously, we'll slip in a little bit of Good Liar, but it's just trying to make people laugh and enjoy their day.
No, you guys are nailing it. When you look at all your marketing stuff and everything like that, I think you're speaking very humbly, but you're doing everything in action that you're saying right now. You can see the transition of the marketing, you can see everything there. And then even just hopping on the website, the initial flash media that comes through, you're thinking you're at a rock show and a concert, and then you're in a back patio dripping in the pool. It's like, that's the greatest thing about it, is because you can be both. Like there's nothing wrong with having a duality in your brand.
Yeah. And that all is, we always like to say the name Good Liar is so perfect, because if you drew a line in the sand and you want to have like really rock and roll and artistic, but then you need also one foot in the commercial side. And so that's really where we try to see this brand, is we are trying to have both of those. And there's definitely some brands that are out there doing it very well, but we try to not make it feel like a big brand, but at the same time, you can't go so niche down that it's off-putting or people don't get it. And I'm the worst at that, because I love inside jokes. I love stuff that goes over people's heads, but it's not how you can relate to them and sell product. Is people want to know that they're part of the inside joke and they get it.
Yeah.
And so we keep simplifying our messaging. And one of the lines that we have that people really like, and it's kind of a staple for our brand, is finally a beer that won't text your ex. It's such a good feeling around this brand, because you're like, wait, what? And then and it's not so insane that you don't get it. You kind of laugh at it initially and you're like, yeah, that's dumb. And then when you think about it, you're like, wait, that is so smart, because, oh, I'm not going to get drunk and text my ex at 3 a.m. because I had too many beers. Like, oh, what are you doing? And so it's relatable. So we're trying to lean into that more. And we're also just trying to lean into just everyday life. I think there's just been a little bit too much of, let's go skateboarding, let's go ski down a mountain, let's go like that Red Bull extreme sports. And so it's like, look, you might just be chilling in your patio, drinking some beers or vacuuming your floor, and that's the majority of people, especially, coming from the Midwest. I I travel a lot, so I understand the culture, different cultures throughout the United States, but East Coast and West Coast are very different than the middle United States. And so to relate to people, you have to talk to them in a different way. It's not, hey, let me go race down this big hill on a skateboard. That's just doesn't relate to people. And so we really try and say, like, look, this is beer for everyday life. This is bringing out the raw moments. And so everybody's drank too much beer, most people at some point, and probably did something they shouldn't have done at 3 a.m, or like we're sitting in a Taco Bell parking lot. But you always have a fond memory from that. And you always have, I met one of my good friends because we drank too much and we snuck into a house that we shouldn't have when we were 22 years old, and like had a great time. And so I'm trying to be able to allow people to have that through line, which is a social beverage, without feeling like you have to get ripped or drink too much, that you can kind of walk it back a little bit, but still have those raw moments, still stay up till 4 a.m. and go get Taco Bell. But you don't have to be annihilated on and drunk to do it. And it's not even don't drink beers. It's just like, when you want to cool out a little bit, have a good liar at the end of the night, or layer them in, or hey, tomorrow night I know I'm going, my best buddies in town, I know we're going to drink too many beers, but tonight I still want to hang out. Then have a night where you drink non-alcoholic, and the next night you can have your beers. So it's all moderation. And some people still think it's one or the other, but it's like 80 to 90% of people that drink non-alc still drink regular beers, which is great, because I think there's a social aspect that needs to be there, that social lubricant for people to have the courage to go up and talk to that guy or girl. And there's something about the actual alcohol that does help with that. But it's like, look, you can walk it back some. You don't have to drink 8 beers every single night.
It's probably 13 months ago, I was out with my buddies from college for a 40th birthday party. And I've been sober 3 years now. So when I was going out, I was honestly like hyper nervous, because I had not gone out for like a close the bar kind of night. Like I've always gone out for like a happy hour with friends or different things like that. Never like a 6 to 8 hour expedition. And I was like, man, and my thing is, I don't get the cravings or anything like that. I get annoyed after like 9 p.m. because I'm sober and everybody else is having a good time. And like that, it's more of like an annoyance where I'm just like, I just want to be home. Because nobody else is going to remember these conversations. So why am I wasting energy on it? Like that's where it is. But what happened was we went out in Philadelphia, and I'll give credit to Athletic because they were the only beer available. But Philadelphia now is starting to incorporate those types of menus. And I was able to buy Athletics throughout the course of the night. And it was a complete psychological fix where there was moments where I'm like, am I drunk? Because I was so relaxed and enjoying myself and not thinking about not drinking around everybody. And then what happened was at the end of the, like towards around 11 p.m., people started noticing like I wasn't drinking. They thought that the whole night they were thinking like that Athletic IPA was an actual IPA in my hand. And then I told them what I was doing. And all of a sudden by midnight, there's 5 people at the bar drinking Athletics, and then they were out of Athletics by 12:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Then the next morning, we're all like recovering in the morning, and I'm not recovering because I'm up at 5 a.m. making the coffee for everybody and stuff. And all of a sudden, one by one, people are waking up, and everybody walks over to me like, I don't have the hangover. They're like, I'm glad I cranked out those Athletics. And so the last 2 hours of the night, they drank Athletics instead of continuing the alcohol. And then their recovery time was better in the morning. So they got the best of both worlds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's where this beverage fits in.
Yep.
It's 80% of drinking is social. You could, as long as you have something in your hand and you're conversing with people and you're enjoying something good and talking. The thing I've noticed with non-alcoholic as well is if you have a few of them, you get a little head buzz, but it's totally placebo. It's just
it's all placebo, but it does happen.
It does happen. And so it's kind of cool that you can feel like you got a little buzz, but it's all fake. Yeah. So I was talking to a lady last night. We were at an event and she's like, no, I've had these and I feel I feel like I get drunk on them. And I'm like, no, it's like, it's all placebo. I promise. It's like traces of alcohol. in minute traces of alcohol.
When I had a therapist when I was going through therapy that was also a recovering alcoholic, and he explained it to me the best way possible. It's your body creating the buzz because it's the euphoria of your comfort of the social setting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what it's your body, like your nervous system finally relaxing into the setting that used to ramp you up, and your body's interpreting that as a buzz, but it's just the euphoria of comfort.
Yeah. I'm okay with that.
Yes. It helped me get through it. So
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I don't. I have to. For anybody that new that's on this, I'm not bashing alcohol in my sobriety. I have alcohol brands in my portfolio, and I spend all day long at bars and restaurants and breweries. So I try to tell people that alcohol didn't work for me, but it works for a lot of other people.
Yeah, I think it's not going anywhere. I think in certain setting, it's actually a great thing.
Yeah,
and everything's always in moderation. And one thing that switching to this industry, I've met some amazing people. People I never would have met otherwise than starting this. And so some super talented people, super kind, super nice, really knowledgeable in this industry. And so it's been great just to meet people, even meeting you, just through this, it's always great to just get different perspectives on things. And so it's a great industry. I think that they're going to figure out where the next 10 years are, especially with some of the THC stuff. I think that they'll get that stuff all sorted out before the ban happens. I think they'll get it figured out because there's some amazing people in there just trying to do good things.
Yeah, we're doing we actually hired a lobbyist this year, so we're doing the Pennsylvania push right now. We have the bill written, the senator, we have a representative that has sponsored the bill and drafted it and everything like that. We're going to go public in the next week with our bill.
Oh, great.
So it'll basically open up the entire economy where every alcohol establishment can buy, sell, and everything like that, as well as alcohol manufacturers can become co-packers of it. So we're going to use it as a revenue boost to that industry, as well as growing its industry up there as well.
Okay. Yeah. I do think they needed to figure something out because it was just the Wild West.
It is I'm in Pennsylvania for that type of work, and you're allowed to sell it unless it's an alcohol establishment. So basically, it leaves coffee shops and vape shops open for opportunity, which is a great place to be, and they're great people. But it's not the scale in which you can build a survivable business. You have to be in the place where people are actually drinking alcohol to bring those products in and let them do what they're supposed to do, which is complement what's already going on.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so one thing we did learn with this is meet people where they are. And so we really just lean into that. It's like, well, we can do this event and there's gonna be X amount of people, but I'm like, and we've done that, and it's like, well, this really wasn't our demographic. So just because there's a lot of people doesn't mean that you should do it. It's you got to hit the right time and place where your customer is. And so I love doing tastings. I do them weekly in store. And part of the reason is, we're trying to move product and get people to try it. Like, I think that's definitely the number one goal. But secondarily, I love talking to people and hearing their story and figuring out what they like, what they don't like. How can we make our product better? So it's not just a churn and burn. Let me see how many 6-packs can get moved to juice the numbers. No, it's understanding your customer because you're there talking to them. Well, somebody's looking in the non-alcoholic cooler, I'll walk over and just start having a conversation with them. Like, hey, what do you like? What brands don't you like? And it's really surprising at what people buy in their buying habits. And that's the stuff that gets me pumped up because I want to understand that. One, it's just curious, but also then how can we make our business better to meet your customer where they're at? And if you just say, well, this is who we are and our customers are going to meet you, you're going to have an uphill battle. You need to always understand what your customer's liking, because 2 years from now, it can completely be a different thing. 100%. I mean, who knows? Maybe porters make a comeback and they, go up the line. I mean, who knows? I'm not saying it's going to happen, but you got to be able to talk to your customer, have a conversation. Some people are super friendly and they'll want to talk to you for 20 minutes. And then there's other people that are like, get away from me, you weirdo. It just happens. I try to be as friendly as possible, but it's all just trying to have a conversation and understand where people are buying things, where they're not buying things, where they buy online, not like, what do they like about the beer? I always want to hear that bottom 10% of who hates your brand. Like, tear it apart. Like, I want to know who absolutely hates this and why, so that I can try and make it better. Where there's smoke, there's fire, and some feedback you just got to ignore because you can't make everybody happy. But I want to know, is there one sliver of truth in there that you could do something to make?
I love this. Well, hey, Jared, I really appreciate you taking the time today, and I want to talk to you offline about getting you guys over to Pennsylvania, man. I'm excited. I saw these packaging, talking to get to know you. Your personality and your mission would do really well in the community in Pennsylvania, especially in like the Pittsburgh, Philadelphia market. I mean, that product would really pull well for it. So I want to thank you for taking the time to hop on here without any questions in advance, without knowing what we were going to talk about. I have to publicly compliment people on that, because people don't realize that it can be nerve-wracking to hop on camera and do that type of stuff. And I have to thank you for the courage and the chutzpah, and also just let you know, like, there's a lot of people that don't do it because there is no questions in advance, and they don't know how to script anything, and they don't know how to bring their talking points. And I do this intentionally because I don't want people's talking points. I want your passion, I want your story, and I want it straight from you. And I appreciate you being open and willing to have that conversation today and telling your story.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having me on, Nate.
Perfect. Well, I will wrap up. Thank you, Jared, for the time today. Check out goodliar.com. You guys, most states if you're not in the state of Ohio, most states it looks like you can do DT shipping to your house. So goodliar.com. And thank you so much for what you're doing. I know it's a crazy industry and you're new to it, but you guys are carving a path that's not just from a benefit to the sober community, but also to a benefit of moderation and just helping us overall kind of keep moving forward in a positive momentum in life. And again, I like that you don't look at the world as a battle, and you look at the world as curiosity, and that's what I think more people should be doing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
Hey, thanks so much, man. You have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, Nate.
Take care.